What is everybody? Daniel Rock Zero back again on a video. A couple of weeks ago, I did the top 9 greatest SummerSlams of all time, showcasing the hottest parties and the biggest parties of summer, the second biggest show of the year in SummerSlam. Shows like 2002, 1997, 1991. These shows had some of the finest moments, some of the finest matches of all time. And they were really the biggest blockbusters, the hottest party of the summer. These shows, however, they're not even lukewarm. They are some of the coldest, some of the worst shows of all time. These shows are colder than a winter's night in Alaska. These these shows are not the biggest blockbusters. These are some of the biggest blockbuster flops of all time. This is it. This is my top 9 worst SummerSlams of all time. SummerSlam 2012. While some shows will be on this list because they're horrible, they have some of the worst matches in SummerSlam history, some of the worst moments, some head scratching moments, some very stupid things, or maybe the show is bad because it was in a terrible time period. 2012 SummerSlam is on my list because, well, it's incredibly forgettable. Honestly, other than Triple H versus Brock Lesnar, which wasn't really that good of a match, what can you really consider that would be memorable, if anything at all? I mean, for God's sakes, you had Sheamus versus Alberto Del Rio. Do you really want to sit through a Sheamus versus Alberto Del Rio match in 2012? Um, Very forgettable show. Only number 9 because, again, I can't really remember anything. But there were two good things. Daniel Bryan versus Kane. It did start the whole Team Hell No shit, which was incredibly funny. And Triple H getting no sympathy whatsoever is incredibly hilarious as well. 2012, not a bad SummerSlam, only number 9, but it is incredibly forgettable. On the surface, 1990 SummerSlam isn't really that bad of a show. Rude versus Warrior for the world title in a cage match was fairly good. Demolition versus the Hearts in the tag team title match was very good as well. However, the bad stuff is just short shit stuff. You have Randy Savage versus Dusty Rhodes in 1990. Both men's careers in the WWF at this point in time weren't really at the apex. You had Dusty Rhodes and his weird relationship with Sapphire and Polka Dots Daddy. You had Randy Savage. The King Macho Man stuff was fine. The Macho King stuff was fine, but 1990, not really a banner year for Randy Savage when he has to waste away a WrestleMania match with Savage in a mixed tag match. Unbelievable. Savage and Dusty Rhodes, that match is 2 minutes long, and really all they care about is Sapphire selling her soul to Ted DiBiase for a couple of fucking high-priced jewelry, diamonds, and necklaces, and all this shit. What the fuck? And a fur coat. Why are you wasting away Savage and Dusty Rhodes for Sapphire? Oh my god. Nikolai Volkov, Jim Duggan versus the Oriental Express in 3 minutes. So I have to explain much more. Warlord versus Tito Santana. I want to throw up. 1990 wasn't terrible, but I mean, you wasted away Savage and Dusty Rhodes for Sapphire. Has to be on the shit list. The 1989 SummerSlam coming in at number 7 here. Very weird show. Unlike 1988, which, in my opinion, aged incredibly well, 1989's does not age at all well. It's just not a good show. The main event, you had the Mega Maniacs taking on Savage and Zeus. Oh, garbage match. Garbage match. Probably, well, I'd say the top 5 worst main event matches of all time. Perfect versus Red Rooster. Yuck. Greg Valentine versus Hercules. I mean, holy shit. Dusty Rhodes versus Honky Tonk Man. Pretty disappointing. The only good stuff was Heart Foundation versus the Brainbusters. This show does not age well, but not inherently a bad show overall. But these next 6 shows, they are truly terrible. And coming in number 6 is 1999 has some mixed emotions. When I went through my year 1999 review, I stated financially and where the business was at from a roster standpoint, it was a very good year for the WWF. It was an incredible year. The roster was at its apex. However, pay-per-view wise, the shows were atrocious. 1999 had some of the worst shows of all time. Royal Rumble was bad. WrestleMania 15 was an awful show. Survivor Series was bad. Armageddon bad. Unforgiven bad. King of the Ring bad. And SummerSlam 1999 was no different. You had The Rock being thrown away in a forgettable rivalry with Billy Gunn. Why is The Rock being wasted away with Billy fucking Gunn? It's like if you took Roman Reigns and threw him away with Dolph Ziggler. It doesn't make sense. Doesn't live for fun. Your brain gets smart, but your head gets dumb. In a kiss my ass match. Oh dear God. You see, my name's Billy, and I just won King of the Ring. But the only problem is everyone still thinks that I absolutely suck. Ivory versus Tori. Not Tori Wilson, but Tori the Stalker. Tori, Xbox's bitch girlfriend. Terrible match. Shamrock Blackman in a hardcore weapons lion den match was very disappointing. And Stone Cold Steve Austin plays politics. What really makes me mad about these internet fucking fucktard marks out there are they like to bitch, moan, and complain about how John Cena plays politics and how Vince McMahon plays favoritism towards John Cena and Roman Reigns and Randy Orton and all these guys. But when it comes to Stone Cold and it comes to Shawn Michaels, they bat their eyes because those guys are awesome. Well, Stone Cold Steve Austin, you know what? Sometimes if he didn't want to do the job, he doesn't do the job. And he plays politics. See, Triple H was supposed to win the World Wrestling Federation title. However, that wasn't meant to be. And Triple H instead wins the title on Raw in Ames, Iowa. And he beats Mankind. So they had to toss in Mankind in this match. You have Jesse Ventura because apparently being the governor of Minnesota is not very important to him. Bad show overall. Your best match was Test versus Shane O'Mac. And that says a lot for this show. My God. 2015. When you look at a card as such as 2015, they have some very good matches. And yes, 2015 SummerSlam did have some fucking awesome matches. The problem with those fucking awesome matches are they had some fucking terrible finishes. Seth Rollins, John Cena was an amazing match until Jon Stewart decided to stick his stupid nose into the business where he had no business in being, hits John Cena and being blatantly obvious about it, costing him the match because he did it for Ric Flair. I did it for Ric Flair. I did it. Shut your mouth. You had Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar, which was very good until the finish, where you had your stupid ring bell keeper guy ringing the bell, not doing his job because he thought The Undertaker tapped out, even though you're not supposed to ring the bell unless the referee tells you to. Besides those, you had the love trapezoid between Rusev and Lana and Ziggles and Summer Rae, and what the fuck is that? You want to kill Rusev's career, that's how you do it. Also, Sheamus versus Randy Orton for the 10,000th time. Everyone bitches about Randy Orton versus John Cena, but I dare say I think Orton versus Sheamus might have had a few more matches than them. My God. Whew. Whew. SummerSlam 2015. I don't care what anybody says. This was a very bad show and it had some of the worst finishes of all time. You had the Divas Revolution. You can't have a Divas Revolution when A, they're still called Divas, B, Nikki Bella is still in the picture, and C, it's only the Divas Revolution because you brought in some NXT bitches. I wanted to like 2015. The two headline matches were very good until their finishes. I don't care. 2015, a horrible SummerSlam. But my God, the top 4 worst SummerSlams. Oh, good. Gracious. Great balls of fire. These 4 shows are some of the worst shows of all time. At this point in time, you had 2 very big factions. These 2 factions had a lot of buzz. They had a lot of intrigue about them. And these 2 factions really could have ushered us into a new era. Yes, the new era could have began far sooner than what we really could have gotten it. Far sooner. And of course, I'm talking about these 2 factions being the Straight Edge Society and the Nexus. Much more famously is the Nexus. But let's talk about the Straight Edge Society here. Straight Edge Society on SmackDown, led by CM Punk, was this cult. CM Punk being that hot hybrid of being Jesus Christ and Charles Manson. I mean, my goodness. CM Punk had some of the best things going for himself in this time period. You had Luke Gallows, you had Joey Mercury, and Serena. You had some good stuff with this faction, and it was very, very good. Straight Society was very good, and they had a lot of momentum. Of course, all that momentum and all that buzz and all that intrigue ended when you had them lose in a handicap match to the Big Show. The Big Show beats all 3 members of them in a handicap match and wins this match. This would then start the huge pay-per-view losing streak of CM Punk. He would lose 9 or 10 pay-per-views in a row. And it wouldn't be until Money in the Bank where he wins finally and breaks the pay-per-view curse that he had. Think that through your mind. Get that through your skulls. When CM Punk dropped the pipe bomb, he was on a pay-per-view losing streak. Okay, it just shows you how much things can turn around for CM Punk. And of course, they go back to fucking CM Punk over and ruining things that he had. Yes, I do hate CM Punk's guts now, but even I have to admit that CM Punk did kind of get fucked over on some things. Some things. But of course, it doesn't end there. You had Randy Orton versus Sheamus in a shameless match that was stupid and bad. And they had like 1 million matches. I think they had like 10 SummerSlam matches. Maybe not, but they had a lot. Rey Mysterio versus Kane. Whatever. But the biggest piece of turd was the Nexus getting fucked over. When you think of storylines that had a lot of potential but in the end got fucked up, nothing is much more infamous than the Nexus. Okay, there's a couple others. Stone Cold getting ran over by Rikishi. That was stupid in the end. That had a stupid result. The Invasion was ruined. The streak, the Undertaker streak, in my opinion, was ruined. And there will be a top 9 list that I will do. The top 9 storylines that were ruined. And this would definitely be on that list. The Nexus. What can I say? In a matter of 4 minutes, John Cena gets DDT'd on the concrete floor, gets into the ring, moves out of the way from the 450 splash, beats Justin Gabriel, makes Wade Barrett taps out, and everything after the Nexus was completely fucking ruined. Thankfully, WWE capitalized and rewrite their wrong with the Shield. And thank God that the Shield rewrite everything that was wrong with the Nexus. They fucked everything else up, and John Cena knows he fucked up. He regrets putting them over, and it's why he went on a 6-loss SummerSlam losing streak. SummerSlam 2010 had the potential to usher us into a new era, with the Strange Society leading things on SmackDown and the Nexus leading us on Raw. It's just too fucking bad that the WWE had to ruin it, because WWE ruins everything. At number 3, oh baby, SummerSlam 1995. The bottom 3 shows are incredibly terrible to watch. All 3 of them are very, very bad. 1995 is my number 3 because, well, the ladder match basically saves it. If it wasn't for the ladder match, it would be number 1. 1995, face the heat, huh? Well, I say face the shit. This show is atrocious. Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Bob Holly. I mean, it's the Connecticut Blue Blood versus Butt Plug Bob Holly. What more can I say? Undertaker being wasted away in his $1 million corporation feud, and it's comma. Yuck. But the worst part of 1995 SummerSlam, it's the main event. It's the worst main event in history of SummerSlam. Hell, it might be the worst main event ever. Period. In the story. Diesel versus King Mabel. Hong Kong, Hong Kong, Hong Kong for the World Wrestling Federation title. And this match was just a complete dumpster fire. This is awful. It's the worst Kevin Nash match I've ever seen. It's so. This is the worst SummerSlam match of all time. Diesel Mabel, the worst SummerSlam match of all time. It is awful. Face the heat, face the shit. Undertaker being wasted away with comma. Bret Hart being wasted away with Isaac fucking Yankum. Jesus Christ, Diesel Mabel. 1995. Face the heat, face the shit. Oh, God. Oh, God. How stupid can you make someone look? SummerSlam 1993 had some of the worst matches of all time. It had some of the most disappointing matches of all time. And it has some of the stupidest moments I've ever seen ever in watching wrestling, period. I have never seen a show that makes someone look quite as dumb as they did making Lex Luger on this particular night. However, Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez. My God. Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez. What can I say about it? Their match from WrestleMania 9 is probably the worst match of all time in WrestleMania history. And this match might be the worst match in SummerSlam history. And Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez is Undertaker's worst feud. And this might be worse than that match. Whichever match you consider to be worse, SummerSlam match or the WrestleMania 9 match, whichever, it's fine, because both matches would be considered the worst matches in Undertaker's career. And when you have a terrible match with The Undertaker, you know you're fucking shit. If The Undertaker cannot get you over, you know you fucking suck. But it's besides that. You had Mr. Perfect versus Shawn Michaels, which could have been an awesome match, but it's incredibly disappointing because it ends in disqualification. You had Diesel on there. This match could have been good. It had a lot of things going for it. I mean, it's Mr. Perfect and Shawn Michaels. What more can you say? This match was very disappointing. And honestly, it probably was the best match on the card. Steiner's versus Heavenly Bodies was okay. Bret Hart versus Jerry Lawler's feud was okay. But the reason why this is number 2 is not because of Undertaker versus Giant Gonzalez. Even though it's a shitty match, and Mr. Perfect versus Shawn Michaels is very disappointing. But what makes this number 2 on my list is the fact that Lex Luger defeats Yokozuna via countout, wins this match in the World Wrestling Federation title match. But he doesn't win the title. Yet, for some particular reason, out comes the Steiners, out comes Tatanka, out comes all the baby faces. They hoist Lex Luger on their shoulders. They hoist Lex Luger on their shoulders. Down comes red and white and blue confetti. And I'll be your hero playing loud. And fucking as loud. You know, the pomp and all the circumstances. And guess what? He doesn't win the title. He doesn't win the title. Imagine if John Cena defeated JBL at WrestleMania 21, but via disqualification, yet all comes these baby faces. Out comes all the baby faces in 2005 that you could think of. Out comes Benoit. Out comes fucking Jericho. Out comes Edge. Out comes all these guys. And they hoist John Cena on their shoulders, but he doesn't win the title. That's how stupid they make Lex Luger look. I'll be your hero. I'll be your hero. And the Lex Express was dead. My God. Lex Luger looked so stupid. My number 1 is number 1. Not because it has some of the worst matches ever. Not because it has some of the worst moments of all time. But because it takes place in the darkest time period, in the worst time period to be a wrestling fan, period. Number 1 takes place in a time period where almost it was uncomfortable watching wrestling, quite frankly. Number 1 is SummerSlam 2007. It's number 1, not just because it had bad matches. I mean, Batista versus Great Khali. It's a top 5 worst matches of all time. Morrison Punk's very disappointing. The Divas Battle Royale for the women's title is awful. Kane versus Finlay. What in the bluest of blue hell balls is that? The triple threat match. You had Umaga and Mr. Kennedy and Carlito. And who the bluest of hell is the babyface, by the way? Who the fuck's the babyface in that match? Rey Mysterio, his return is overshadowed by Triple H, God, and his $6 million man. We can rebuild him. Vignettes and burying King Baka. But that's not why it's the worst show of all time in SummerSlam. It's the worst show because it takes place 8 weeks after the horrible incidents that took place in June 25th. The Chris Benoit double merge suicide. It's something that it's happened 10 years ago, and it's still a horrible, mind-bending thing to think about. We don't know everything that went down, but we do know he did it, and it's still hard to this day to wrap our minds about it. It's the darkest time period in wrestling history. 95, with all its cartoonish bullshit that went down, it cannot compare. It cannot compare, because at least when you say 1995 is bad, well, at least it's hilarious. It has a lot of hilarious shows, a lot of hilarious things. 2007 is just dark, and nobody wanted to watch wrestling at this point. I am incredibly surprised this got a high buy rate of like 500,000, which is pretty high. Not sure how, but it's just a bad time period overall. And look at the matches. I mean, no matter how good John Cena Orton is, it is the best match. It's the only good match on this card. But no matter how good it is, it still doesn't change the fact that this is just a bad time period. And it's just not just that. Edge is not on this show. Shawn Michaels isn't on this show, and neither is The Undertaker. Those men were injured. Lots of people were injured. Lots of people were suspended. It's a terrible time period. So you take that, the injuries, the suspensions, you take the bad moments, the bad matches, and you have the absolute worst tragedy in the entire history of wrestling, and you wrap them all in a ball, and there you have it. SummerSlam 2007, the most uncomfortable show to watch, one of the most uncomfortable shows to ever watch in wrestling. It is the absolute worst SummerSlam of all time, and one of the worst shows, period. Anyways, despite all that, SummerSlam has had a long lineage of fantastic shows, some fantastic matches, and some fantastic moments. Hop on the WWE Network. Hop on the WWE Anthology SummerSlam if you still have it. Hop on the SummerSlam DVD if you still have those. Pop them in, watch them, and because a lot of this stuff is very good. These 9 shows, however, were, in fact, the coldest parties of the summer and the biggest blockbuster flops in SummerSlam history. Anyways, I'm DanaRock08. Like, comment, and subscribe.